Righto, so here's a different video for you guys. My first car, as you probably saw from the thumbnail. Here we go. Righto, so my first car was a 1980 HZ Holden 253 3-speed on the column ex South Australian Interceptor. She must have been fast, eh? Righto, so I'll show you the end result first. Okay, I'm not going to leave you hanging, but then I'll show you the journey on how I got there. So this is her. What do you think? HZ 253. She was in a few different styles along the way. This was a day at the Great Ocean Road. It had a set of 14-inch globe centerlines on it, a bug catcher. It sat on the bump stops. It was absolutely beautiful. It had a tan interior, but the sad side to this one is this. This is what it started out at. This is my first car. This is how I bought it for $1,200. Yeah, that's the driver's side. Looks alright, doesn't it? Bit of green. Oh yeah, she's pretty sweet. But this is the passenger side, and when you look at the passenger side, you can see all those patches of green. They were actually not little bits of rust, they were massive rust holes. You'll see here, it was just insane, honestly. You can see all the way down there the dog leg. See this dog leg here? It was gone. We put a complete sill panel on it as well because it was just so bad. You'll see here in the shed, sorry about the exposure on the pictures, it was up on jack stands like that for a very long time. Full sill panel. Rear dog leg was cut out of another car, out of a brown car, as you can see, and welded in there because that whole section was gone, absolutely gone. All this stuff got done around, I was still in high school. I would have been 14, 15, I was 15 years old because I bought it myself because I worked at Sizzler. I got a job at Sizzler cleaning tables and doing dishes, and that's how I bought this car. My dad helped me. I don't speak to my dad anymore, have not done for about 15 odd years, and probably another 5 years before that, but it was, yeah, but that's another story in itself. We'll deviate here from the story for maybe a bit of a background. So I grew up around cars. This FJ Holden was the cars that were generally around when I can remember. Okay, so the two front FJ Holdens here, the two cream ones, were two cars my dad owned. You'll see me here sitting down as a kid polishing hubcaps on that car. And previously to me being born, okay, my dad raced Speedway in an FJ Holden. So in this one here is one of his race cars. The first time I went to Speedway personally, I was 3 months old. My dad was racing. It wasn't long after that he sort of started to move away from Speedway and be a bit more family orientated. I've got an older sister, and he gave away the racing because it was so dangerous back then. But yeah, but previously to that, there was this XBGT. I don't have a lot of photos from back in the day because this XBGT, we went on a family holiday apparently. I can vaguely remember. Got back, it had lost oil pressure at some stage, and he'd sold the car. But while building this car, my mum died while building my HZ. So this is my mum here, okay, standing in front of a 327 Bathurst Monaro. It was a 4-speed car. She died of cancer while I was building this car. I still remember the day that she died. I was lying underneath the car, underneath the passenger side, fitting the shock absorber. I heard a bit of commotion going on inside, and yeah, I went in, and as I sat down, she was still alive, but the mask fogged up that was on her face, the oxygen mask. So I took that off because she wasn't breathing anymore. She'd stopped breathing, and as I took it off, the colour drains from your face when you die, if that makes sense, and your lips sort of go the same colour as your face instead of, yeah. But anyway, it is what it is, happens to everyone, but that happened to me when I was younger. So this car, this HZ, as you'll see here, this car was my everything. It was there through all of this stuff, and it gave me something to focus on and build and do. But yeah, so by this stage though, by the time my mum died, the car had gone through these stages. So you'll see here it's in primer. It's, you know, the doors are off it here. It's coming together. This shot here actually shows you what the color of it was actually like. It was a nice overcast day this day, but you can see how crisp the lines were on it in the end. The red just come up so well, you know, and you can see through these photos, like look at that's in the shed again and backed out. It was all painted. It actually got painted in acrylic paint back then. 2-pack was starting to come in, but it was a new process. And I remember the paint actually got mixed up by a guy in a shed at the back of Moolap. Some guy my dad knew, and it was actually mixed from clear, and the red tinter was put in, and the number was 3020 for the number of the paint. It was an industrial paint, but Christ, it came up well. It shined this car. It was just exceptional. Like you can see here in this photo, that was just backed out of the shed. It just come up so well. Yeah, and then up with the bonnet up, you'll see we've put the black back onto the bonnet. So yeah, so this car ended up awesome. It really did. Like, it, even through all the turmoil of those times, it just come up so well. I ended up, it wasn't long after my mum died that I sort of left home and stuff. The car was still back at my parents' place because I was obviously too young to drive. I ended up getting it back together, and then I moved it to a unit, right? And when I moved into the unit, I met a whole new group of people. There's a bloke named Westy, and you'll see in this photo there's that white HJ. See the white HJ? That thing had a 253 in it. Back then there were red P-plate laws, so I couldn't drive a 5 litre, only the 4.2 253. But this thing was balanced or something, I don't even know. I don't know what cam they'd put in it, but the thing used to haul. It had a power glide in it with the 253, and nothing could touch it. So I bought this car for the motor back in the day, and then pulled the motor out in the unit I was living in. You can see here I've pulled her apart, head gaskets in it, didn't machine the heads back then, nothing. Didn't know, you know, like setting the timing back then with the timing chain, that was a mission. There was no Google, there was nothing, like, but got it back together. And yeah, I ended up, then you'll see here, color coding the bumper bars. Had them on a trolley and painted them, and got them sandblasted and painted them the same color as the car, and it made a hell of a difference to the look of the car. You'll see here, now this photo here is pretty much where the way it ended up, the way I had it for most of the time that I had it down there. It had a 4-speed in it by this stage, and it also had well, those center lines, the bumper bars were color coded. You can see how good they look. This photo was taken down at the Great Ocean Road at a trip, and so was this one. And it come up really well. The car was great. Like, I didn't realize what I had back in the day and how clean this thing was, but it come up freaking awesome. But then not long after that, moved to the Gold Coast. Okay, so I'm sort of, what was I, 18, 19? A lot of stuff happened in Geelong, and I moved to the Gold Coast, and it was a different sort of move. And we went on a trip. How else can I explain it? We went on a trip down to Nimbin. Okay, so we're down in New South Wales, and there was a mate, Dave, who had a VN Commodore back then. VNs were like new back then, new manual VN S-Pack red one, and I was chasing him coming out of Nimbin. My car was on the bump stops. I had an Esky in the back that was chockers, 2 people in the back, Mitch in the front, and it was low. Wet roads, around this corner, and it slid. I've slid off the road onto the grass, right, and there was a white post in front of me. And I was thinking to myself, if I fight this, I could lose it all together into a fence or something, but I can hit that white post, maybe wreck a bar, break a grill, and just slide to a stop, and then take it easy for the rest of the way home. Hit the white post, there's a big culvert behind it, so the car's taken off, and bang, bent the chassis up, just made a mess of it. So you can see in this photo, it smashed the front. You know, it had the bug catcher back then on it still. It was wrecked. But how's this bit of it? See this photo here? This is the heater box, right? So the heater box got smashed. The white post hit and then wedged up through the heater box, and the glove box had popped about that far. The latch was still holding on the glove box, but the glove box had kicked back. And Mitch is in the passenger seat next to me, And he opens the glove box up when we stop, and here's this white post just heading for his nuts. Like, that was nuts. But yeah, he was fine though. We were all fine. No one got hurt. The boys went back into Nimbin, and I think Brad's brother was with us. I can't remember who went in, and they're asking for ropes so they could tow us, right? And so they come back and go, we spoke to one bloke, and he goes, rope, and he goes, they reckon he looked at the sky and goes, rope, because I can get some dope, but no rope, dope, and just off with the fairies. But anyway, yeah, so over the years, my first car, that's what she ended up like. This is probably the best photo I've got of what she was. That was her, and she was beautiful, and I loved her. And yeah, I don't know, what do you do? This is another car I built though, an XY GT replica. This thing was beautiful. Look at that. 351 C4, 9-inch 411 mini spool, interior done. It was sweet. But yeah, I ended up selling the HZ to a good mate of mine, Dallas. Dallas is no longer with us. He ran Del Trim. He had a ride up in Street Machine. He was a really talented trimmer, same age as me. He was my VNSS guy back in the day. Like, no one wanted him back then, and I'd ring him, and he wanted an Atlas grey one, I wanted a red one, neither of us had one. I'd ring him because he ran his own workshop down on the Gold Coast. I was out truck driving, and we'd talk about SSs and stuff. Sad that he's gone. He was a very talented trimmer. You've have probably seen the photo of him. Everyone knows that purple HQ Monaro called Handful, right? And you would know this photo. So see this photo here with the coppers, with that Monaro? That bloke standing there, that is Dallas. People always speak highly of the dead, but you don't have to exaggerate with Dallas. He really was just a great bloke. Like, he was, yeah. Anyway, a lot of death in this video, isn't there? But yeah, so Dallas ended up with the car. He had it for a while and then sold it on to another guy. I did see the car again parked across from a place I lived in, Southport on the Gold Coast. They'd repainted it like a darker red, and I never saw it after that, guys. But yeah, but that's the story of my first car, and that's her. Isn't she beautiful? So what did you guys have? Yeah. The next one of these videos, because this is going up on a Saturday morning, the next Saturday morning video, I'm going to run through where Kingatow started, why it started, and where we're heading. Okay, so yeah, and then from there I'm going to run through all my cars that we've got lined up to do work on, guys, and there's a lot. I'm positive there's something there for everyone, and I think you're going to really enjoy these videos coming up, and it's going to get you guys involved. It's going to let you guys know where we're at and where we're heading and what we're going to do together, and it's going to be awesome. We've got a lot of work to do.